Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'll be putting my name forward here to run for your mayor. We're going to go into the city and forensic audit it. That'll expose what Henry was doing and why all these threats took place and why there was a buddyship in my Abbotsford APD. It's well known that I want to be your mayor to remove the Abbotsford police and transformate them into the RCMP after what Mike Sir did, covered the Henry's hit and run, the task force on Council Mogil, the task force circling my house, and all the threats of my life. You know, in a few videos past tense, I posted a reward for a man up there at the Ledgeview Golf Course claiming he was an Abbotsford police officer driving a big Ford. I told you that it was very serious of how far the Abbotsford police have went by trying to get my driver's license, making statements that the Abbotsford casino, after I left the conference there, called me in for drinking and driving. They ransacked my vehicle and made me do a DUI. Then a few weeks ago, they pulled me out in front of the fire department again because the bar stated to them that I was drinking at the bar and couldn't come forward with the bar. Then they smashed my camera, which was personal property, and my phone my son bought me for Father's Day, made allegations that I was here and they had enough witnesses with their shithole friends that they could charge me when I was in White Rock with a multi-billionaire. They went quiet. The sympathy of using this name for these garbage men have came to the front center when I started showing you picking up prostitutes, racing the Dodge Chargers, using their police badge, jumping on community vehicles, punching people in the face, down at the CP track, Canada Day, and behind the Abbotsford police having a big lavish party. The overtime and the cost of charging the ag fare and all these community things, the big vehicles they wanted. It was no police department. It was a bunch of losers and thugs running to keep the establishment in power to hold the city bank account. It would outline that when Mike DeYoung, the sitting MLA and Attorney General, threw a party at Bale Road, it was the RCMP said, live stream that, Mr. Pelican, call the Abbotsford police to raid it. When the Abbotsford police weren't raiding it, was friends of Henry. We don't want a police department like that. We don't want to be questioning. And I told you they lost the confidence of the general public, the ability to police the street. Now they're going out with 3 or 4 guys and mobbing somebody when they pull them over, just straight mobbing. The cost overruns, I told you that they were stealing it out the back doors and nobody held the Abbotsford police accountable. What led to this? What led to this? Corruption. Corruption is always the way, and when you're being pushed down, you can feel the corruption more. But what opened and exposed it was the Mission RCMP. Without their help, nobody would have been any wiser to what was going on with the Abbotsford police. I made a statements as far as, in my opinion, the Abbotsford police laying dead on the street because somebody retaliated. You would have to. After what you saw, I have outlined on the World YouTube. And you see the police chief handpicked and calling in Superman Gale's office, rather than firing his guys, calling the safety standards of the Police Complaints Commission in and going after the guys. You're not talking allegations, you're talking framing something like Olenoff said, drop the videos of Henry having counsel in his house up on Downs, collaborating with Abbotsford First over the general community to win decisions, and his son gave that to you in videos or I will personally bury you. You're talking the city councillor, Brenda Falk. They used her position as a councillor and tied to the ministry to make allegations, to put heat on me against my children. It was the RCMP that cleaned that and stood in and couldn't believe that Henry would do this and council would lie like this. But what also took place was the mayor, Henry Braun, stood off because of conflict of interest of lands that he was loading and framing and stealing with his establishment. And he had Ed and Mike with him. Henry stood off while Ross Siemens took the position of mayor and put Henry's son in front of him. Darren Braun, the economic development officer, to make sure a job came to Henry's from the government to enrichate his land and his portfolio to bring services and everything. Caused thousands of dollars in damage, and there was no representation by the bureaucrats. I outlined a video today that Ross is responsible for hauling the rocks on Gladys Avenue while he worked at his gas station. He never once had a meeting with the Mackenzie Bog people that got deadly sick, and he's the mayor. He allowed Magna to own a consolidating company to basically push them people in the corner. Till I talked to the former MLA, Bruce Bamman, and he said it's the sitting MLA and Ag Minister, Pamela Alexis. These threats were to hold a rich establishment together, but they were held up by the Abbotsford police. If you had the RCMP in here, that's why they operated this service within Abbotsford, because they were all friends within the police department. When Mike Sir covered Henry's hit and run when he left the city to run me over so he wouldn't be exposed with Abbotsford residents, and fled from the scene and dumped his car, Mike Sir and the task force knew what they were doing. They kept using the shield to the general community. We're a very high commodity to Abbotsford. You need us. We're the task force. We can't be exposed of who we are. You'll put our lives in danger. We're very important to this community, really. How important it is to go out in Yale Secondary, rip through kids' pack sacks as officers, tell them because they're black and African Americans they can't be in the park. In my opinion, you were stealing the stuff out of his pack sacks, taking it home and using it, just like that officer the other night. He claimed he was an Abbotsford police officer. You can't go around making them statements. He crossed the yellow line. He threatened from his vehicle. He broke ICBC rules. He claimed he was a police officer and he did everything that was wrong. And yet the Abbotsford police are sitting there on their hands, worrying how they can stop Mr. Pelican from the mayorship. Ross was the mayor when our homes went down the mountain. He tagged up with Abbotsford First, which were his slate when he was council, and Darren Braun. Today, I'm on McCallum Road. I want to show you something. On McCallum Road, not far from your MLA, BC Conservative, Bruce Bamman's office. If you look at all these development signs that are sitting idle till they get either Peter Mellibard in, Caroline Elliott, or Ian Black. All these development signs that are sitting idle. Remember the Carroll Ranch? Ron Funk was operating already, coming soon, and selling on his advertising webpage before it went to public hearings. I made that clear. I showed you up at the Ledgeview Golf Course, Polygon, that rigged and helped Henry with council on his development to get job sites through behind 3,000 people. And Vicky Hopes had a special invested interest in lying and treating and scandaling. I showed you Ross hauling his gas station out to Mission and dumping it, and Vicky Hopes didn't want to go after that because she had a special, her and the Abbotsford News with Rick Rakes and Tyler Olson had a special vested interest. The RCMP never had a special vested interest, but to get to the bottom of who was threatening Mr. Pelican and residents, why the Abbotsford men and women that said they wanted to serve and protect were doing dirty things in uniforms. And they said that they were about families. If you look across from these job sites, that says Blue Sky. Blue Sky is owned by Darren Braun, and you can look at his development that'll be rushed by who? Let me tell you. Ross Siemens, Kelly Shahal, Mark Warkentine. Remember Mark Warkentine? He ran for Abbotsford First. He was in England, and he put his signs all up illegally on job sites. And he was in England. Mark Warkentine was also appointed to the police board by Henry Braun in the establishment. And then you have Dave Sadu, Marcus Dalvas, and everything. They were enriching yourselves. Darren Braun is a proving officer, knows all these big construction companies that he can walk them through in their job sites. He should never be allowed to operate his business within Abbotsford, especially being on the city as a proving officer and taking advantage of that. This is why I told you Patricia Dreesen was a joke when Abbotsford City flashed her out at Archway Community Services and the director. They were originating themselves and taking advantage of your tax dollars and proving this and raising your tax dollars. This is why I told you the RCMP are so they dress. And the best out of it, because it's not only preferential treatment, it's racketeering. And you could see all his signs at Darren Brown's when you go through there, and Darren Brown was a proving officer, he was Henry's son. And you could see all these developers winning the decisions over the general community. This is why they need to load Ross Siemens for another term. And they need to load him bad. They got all these things setting in. And if the RCMP walk in before Mr. Pelican becomes mayor, it's all over for everybody. This is why the threats are coming. How many people are going to go to jail? They took advantage of a sitting chair and an oath to enrichinate themselves, fraud Abbotsford taxpayers, and then scam, and then not only that, to other threats on it. Darren Braun was the proving officer on the TransLink workyard that caused all the damage on their homes. Ross Siemens was the mayor, and he allowed Henry's son in front of him so it would benefit Henry. Henry said he went to a special lawyer, and the lawyer gave him confirmation that it was all right for my son, who's in partnerships with me and owns construction, and he's in front of me, and he's the proving officer on all these jobs, to be in front of Ross Siemens and do this. I wonder if that was Mike DeYoung, the former lawyer attorney general. I wonder if that was Ed Fast. I wonder if it was Mark Warkentine. I wonder if it was Jerry Palmer. This sent the business or the development world swirling. And I told you I knew from Wall Financial, Aquilini, Mike Dakota, a developer cannot run the city council for mayor. And he cannot run city councils for city councils because you owe him. This is why Marcus Dalvis ran him on the slate. Marcus Dalvis was cheating. He was the one that gave Dave Sadu $10,000 to beat Bruce Bamman for the Liberal nominations. And it went to Andrew Wilkinson. And Marcus Dalvis submitted it to the construction people on a tape. Came right out, went into the MLA's hand to Andrew Wilkinson. Dalvis was in trouble. And he said Dave Sadu wasn't supposed to tell. Then all of a sudden, Marcus Dalvis Quantum projects were going to be approved over everybody else by the Canadian Tire for a 30-story high-rise. This will send you life in jail. So now you can look at why Henry would play Abbotsford police officers off, why he would take the law in his own hand, try to end my life, why he would have Keelan Olenoff, an Abbotsford police officer, threatened, why Olenoff would lie and say he went to Downs because there was break-ins every day, and the RCMP said there's no break-ins at the mayor house, not a window been busted. And Olenoff said that Henry had millions of dollars in the safe. I wonder if that's all the officers that are going out at night, off duty, seizing stuff and then taking it to the Laverick train tycoon. We're gonna fix this. There's one way we can fix it very quickly, and that is before I hit my mayorship and open it up, is move the RCMP in. And we gotta move them in very fast. You can see the special interest groups that will be involved with Ross Siemens to try to get him along. You know you can't block what Greg Toes did and hold me out of the debate, and he did it, but it was the RCMP that were behind me and said, let's see if he's gonna do it for Henry DeLogross. You know you can't go to UFB as the chancellor and Dave Sadu as a city council, and his dad admitted his son did it, and block somebody and threaten somebody, because it was a special, you were going to gain. You were gaining over the community. It's voters that go. It stops a democracy. It also begins in threats, and it also enriches yourself. It's got to go to Abbotsford residents. There was nowhere for me to turn but to leave town. It was the RCMP and former premiers and former MLAs and people of Abbotsford. Said, Mr. Pelican, stand up and fight. Abbotsford needs you. And we're going to put a stop to it all. I'm going to go after Ross Siemens for the Mackenzie Bog that people got deadly sick. He was the mayor. Even if he says, you know, Peter Sparanese, Rob Isaac, and Magna did it. You were the mayor where you were at your gas station. It's your name, Ross. All the rocks on the homeless, the cost overruns. You couldn't run the city. And they used your name as a front, and they damaged your name, they damaged your character. You don't even see your wife or kids beside you because you disgraced that much. It was your team that said I put my hand up their dress and grabbed Sandy Blue on the whipper-whapper and you point her to the police board. It was Rianne Gasper, who's a sitting MLA and a BC Conservative for Abbotsford witnessed. It was Bardi Sandhu. Bardi Sandhu, who I've never sat down and had a coffee with, said, I won't let you wreck somebody and frame them. And she said, I won't let you do it. And she called it out on Abbotsford first. This is the stuff that was going on behind the general public. It was considered politics, but who was running Abbotsford was not the voters, not the community. It was the Laverick tycoons behind the scenes, and they had controlled the Abbotsford police for their threats of anybody who could step forward or anybody who would. I want to tell you, Abbotsford residents, I'm very grateful with Abbotsford residents to the Mission RCMP. This is blue sky. And this is considered fair, and you can drive through town everywhere, but now they're right now scared till they get either Ian Black in of Ed Fast, and then you'll see Pacific Peak Home, Devon Roy, and Diverse really crank it up, or you get Peter Millibard, or you get Caroline Elliott, who's tied back to Henry Brown through Kevin Falcon, and I showed you the whole things they were doing. If you get Yuri Fowler, Caroline Finley, and Dallas Brody together, wow, BC's going to be on track faster than you can. But I want to tell you something today that really Abbotsford voters and BC Conservatives said. They said of all the debates we watched and everything we've seen from all the people and the ones that are cheating, like Caroline Elliott bringing campaign people in. You should be disgraced. You should never be allowed, and it should never mind the parties, the opposition, and everybody should call that out because it's BC and you went outside. And we know when you get outside help, they can cheat everything, can pay everybody off and everything. But here, Yuri Fuller said in the BC Conservative debate at the last thing, which shocked everybody's thing, he said he's owned responsibility when he's made mistakes. He's apologized from the mistakes and corrected them and knew they were wrong. A lot of them were government decisions when he was owning companies, you know, like we're forced to have WCB. We're forced to push WCB. And these are the things, or you're fined, so you have to abide by them. But he apologized, fixed them things for BC voters and Canadians. Something Caroline Elliott has never done for going out, getting something out her help. Peter Mellibard with his problems. And Ian Black never apologized and couldn't bear the problem that he did. This is what Bruce Banman did when he was scandaled over the homeless. He apologized to Abbotsford. He took it on his shoulder. People got fired, and he owned that responsibility. Something Ross Siemens has got to own now. How are they going to, with a vested interest in Ross Siemens, get him up? How are you going to get him up to run him? How are you going to put this cheater and this scam that couldn't go through a fair democracy and a debate, get up and back him? His own dad recognized what he did. All mayors recognized what he did and everything. You know who was running him from the back? Henry Brown. More push down on Henry Brown, the more Ross collapses. And this is what they were doing for Henry's son. Giving him preferential treatment, leads, and everything. Be the same as me becoming mayor and taking my son in there and telling my son, now all the developers are going to own you. You're going to go out and register a company, and they're all going to go through you because you own the city councils. Ross is your best friend now, and they all got to go through you. And Ross will now have to increase, and very quickly, over the general public, with collaborating with his Abbotsford First team, that we're all his council and we're his members, to run these jobs through for Henry Brown as the panic gets in. But we're going to put a stop to that. We're going to bring light to it, to the one BC, to the BC Conservatives, and we're going to put a stop to it. I'm all calling for the RCMP to take over Abbotsford, and that's the quickest way to stop it. And I'm also going to make sure that all mayors running and all people get to see this. It's not called politics, the dirty stuff behind the back doors, because it was your tax dollars. It was your taxes increased. It was you being frauded. You were being emburdened and put on the hook, where they were elaborately spending and buying bigger houses, more real estate, and increasing that just like Rob Funk did. It was not enough fair playing ground to other developers. It drove economic drivers out of Abbotsford because Henry wanted the land for him and Rob Funk. It shut down the Augustine billionaire that was going to use his money and not Abbotsford taxpayers. We don't want to see Blue Sky operating in Abbotsford. We don't want to hear Blue Sky. We want every city to see that so they don't use Darren Braun for what he did. There's an ownership, and Ross Siemens needs to take that ownership on all the homeowners up behind Lou's Bar and Grill that he had threatened, manipulated, moved their houses off, and he was the mayor. How are you going to run for this one, Ross? How are you going to run? Because Vicky Hopes doesn't control the narrative. Abbotsford Police don't control the narrative. The Chamber of Commerce won't control the narrative. Dave Sidhu and Andy Sidhu at the Capriccia don't control the narrative. Abbotsford residents and social media now control it all. And it's going to be front and center that your neighbors, your wives, law enforcement, and everybody see it. Mayors, MLAs, and everybody see it. And they're going to ask the million-dollar question. Why Ross? And Ross is going to tell you, it wasn't me, like everybody else. It was Henry, and then comes the blame. It wasn't me, it was him. It wasn't me, it was Peter Sparanese. The owner is you. You're the commander-in-chief and wanted to be the commander-in-chief. Everything's got to go on you. I'm live. McCallum Road, Abbotsford, British Columbia.